Hi, welcome to Old Man Code. This is Jeff from Into the Vertical Blank. Today we're going to set up Bottles Emulation in Linux to use the great Atari 8-bit but sadly Windows-only emulator, Altirra. I'm going to demonstrate how to set up a file system folder mapped as a virtual drive. This will allow us to save text files created externally and then load them in to the Atari Basic in the emulator. We'll also be able to save our Basic back to that same folder, eliminating the need to program on Atirra files. After that, we're going to have some fun, and we're going to try out the emulator with some gameplay of Adventure International's Preppie. All that and more coming up next. Alright, so to get started, let's talk about the downloads and tools we're going to need. These are the ingredients for our recipe. We're going to need the Altirra emulator first. So let's go to www.virtualdub.org/altirra.html. We're going to look for the latest version. In this case, it's Altirra 4.3.1.zip. We're going to save this in an easy place to find. I'm going to save it right to my desktop in a folder called Altirra. You can save it anywhere you need to. Next, I'm going to unzip it right here. Note that of course you can put this in any place in your system. I'm just doing it on the desktop for simplicity. The next ingredient we're going to need is MyDOS 4.5, an ATR. This is a boot disk. I've always wanted to try MyDOS and never have. So this will be a little bit of a new adventure for me too. MyDOS 4.5 is available at archive.org at the link in the notes linked to this video. You don't need to download the torrent. You can simply show all the files and download just the ATR image. I'm going to download it right to my Altirra folder again for simplicity. We're also going to need a basic cartridge, but this is built into Altirra, so no need to download anything. The next thing we need to look at are our Linux workflow tools. This is the Discover application for Pica OS. Pica is based on Debian, and this means we have all kinds of tools we can use. It comes packed with multimedia and game-related drivers and uses the very Windows-like KDE desktop. We're going to need 3 apps to get started. We're going to need Bottles. Bottles is a Windows application manager that uses Wine and Proton to load and run Windows applications. We're going to need Flatseal. This is a permission manager for Flatpak apps. We need to give Flatpaks access to the folders we want them to use. So in this case, we're going to give it access to the folder where we're going to store our data. Kate, well, we need any editor. I'm going to use Kate. It's a powerful text editor built into KDE. Okay, so the next actual step to get started is to create a bottle. This will let us host applications that are not designed for Linux. I'm going to start up Bottles and then create a new bottle for all my Windows Atari emulators. It will take a couple minutes to create. Once it's complete, I need to open up Flatseal and make sure I've given it access to all of the folders that contain what I want the emulator to use. In this case, it will be a folder called A8HD within the Linux file system folder Altirra. So I just need to give it access to the Altirra folder. By giving it access to the Altirra folder, I don't have to give access to all the subfolders. It cascades down. So Bottles offers quite a few ways to use Windows apps. We're going to use the most simple version here. We're going to just tell Bottles that we have a Windows app called Altirra and set its location to the desktop folder we want to use and the exe. This is called adding a shortcut. Now we can launch Altirra from this menu or from the desktop, because the Altirra 64.exe is now associated with bottles in the operating system. It's time to start up the emulator, and then we'll attach the MyDOS disk to drive A. As soon as we attach it, it will load in the disk. Because I already have the Atari Basic cartridge attached by default, it boots into the command line interface. Let's test to see if it's working. First, go to the file system and create a host folder for our basic files. We're going to create a working folder for our basic programs. In the Altirra folder, it will be called A8HD. Let's create a test file in this folder right now that will attempt to load into Atari Basic. In Altirra, System, Config System, Peripherals, add High-Level Emulator or HLE device, and then Host device. In the H1H6 selection, point it to the A8HD folder in our Altirra folder. Finding this folder might be a little tricky, but we've attached it in flat seal, so all we need to do is look outside the normal folders that Altirra normally looks for in a Windows-based install. Notice I checked on Install D. This will not work in MyDOS. As configured, MyDOS automatically creates a RAM disk on D. This is okay. We're planning to use it as the H6 drive anyway. Now let's switch to BASIC. We're in the ready prompt. Let's load in the test.asc file we created with the enter command in BASIC. This loads the external ASCII file in as a text file. We can list it and run it. All right, it was successful. We can load in an external file from the file system into Altirra Basic and we can run it. We can also save it out as either a text file or a basic file. Let's do one more test with a slightly more complicated program. Not that much more complicated, but in the AHHD folder, I'm going to create another text file called smile.asc. Here, I'm going to cut in some simple predefined basic lines I whipped up before this video. It's just some basic that prints out a happy face. We're going to save that, and now back to Altirra Basic, and we can load it in and run it. There, it's a happy face, because this worked and it made old man code into the vertical blank very happy. Now let's save it as a basic file back to the H6 drive. See here that smile.bas is in the drive we created. When we open it, it's not a text file, but it's a tokenized Atari Basic file. Now, Let's move on and have some fun playing a game of Preppie in the emulated Atari.